So as you know, that past 2-3 years, the industry is so vulnerable because of the COVID pandemic, and sometimes perhaps some other countries facing like Sri Lanka economic crisis. So therefore, it is a very important arena we should discuss the resilience. And at the same time, tourism industry is should ensure that it is belong to everyone. So inclusive growth and inclusive development is expected from tourism development. Third one is very important because the sustainable development is become a driving force for whole economy in the world. Therefore, SDG goals and sustainable developments are very important. So in that particular global agenda, how we can ensure that sustainable tourism is happening right now. So that is what we are expecting from you, resource personal panel, like the valuable resource personal panel, your ideas, suggestions, and way forward for sustainable tourism development in Sri Lanka and rest of the world. I hope that your experience, knowledge, and evidence-based knowledge and the very valuable experience will be used full for our participant and all of us to rethink how we can redirect and redesign our sustainable tourism development and initiation. Thank you very much, Gayatri, and we can start now discussions.
Sure, thank you, Professor. So before we move to the speakers, I would like to give a brief introduction. And the main objective of this webinar is to use the evidence-based knowledge and the result-driven experience. The major objective is organizing this online platform with industry policy dialogue on rethinking for sustainable Sri Lankan tourism, priorities, actions, and the global best practices. So in parallel to the celebration of UNWTO, the World Tourism Day 2020, in rethink and redesign the effective strategic approach for sustainable tourism development. So before we begin, I would like to give a brief introduction how we are going to conduct this webinar. So we have 5 speakers, valuable speakers, and we'll be giving 10 minutes for each speaker. And we have given already, and we are based on 3 main questions. So I'll be briefing the 3 main questions right now. I'm not going to ask from each and everyone. So their speech and the presentation will be based on these topics. So the first one, we are getting their own definition on rethinking tourism, which is the theme of UNWTO, the Tourism Day celebration of 2022. And how do they relate the concept of rethinking tourism for sustainable development? The second one, what are the outstanding experience from the industry expertise, that means from the speakers, so the major suggestions and the key recommendations to achieve and more resilient growth and the sustainable tourism development. Finally, what are the key lessons that we can absorb to our system from the global best practices for the resilient growth and the sustainable development? So these are the main 3 questions will based on their speech. So now you'll have a better idea. So moving on, so I would like to welcome our first speaker, Professor Christof, the Professor in Tourism, Disciplinary Leader, Tourism, Hospitality and Events, the School of Management of Marketing, Curtin Business University, Faculty of Business and Law, and Curtin University, Perth, Western Australia. Over to you, Professor.
Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see, Professor. Yes.
Yes.
Can you see my slides?
Yes. Yes.
We can see your screen, but not your slides.
We can't see.
So, is that better?
No, because it's
Only your screen.
Yes. So, first of all, thank you for your kind introduction and also for the invitation to this event. It's a pleasure and a real honor to be here with you. And so good evening to everyone. So as you can, that's the end. What's going on?
We don't see your slides.
Yes.
So can you now see?
No, we can't see it.
Yes?
No.
We don't see the slide.
Not yet.
Only the folder can be seen.
Okay. It says you're screen sharing, so it should work.
Have you attached a second screen?
What do you mean?
This causes problems if you have a second.
Professor Michael, may I make you as a
Okay, wonderful. All right, so, sorry for that, and good evening again to everyone. So as you can see, my little presentation is titled Rethinking Tourism, a pre and post pandemic perspective, and I'll explain this in a moment what that means. So let me see if I can now move to the next slide. Yes, so I think the tourism is acknowledged with a special internationally recognized day. That's the reason why we're all here. We celebrate World Tourism Day 2022. And I think it's a great opportunity to reflect on the global significance of tourism economically, socially, and environmentally. And it's a great opportunity for us to discuss the future of tourism, in particular after almost 3 years of a pandemic, and to see in how far we can actually get tourism back on a sustainable path. So since the beginning of 2022, I think we can see good signs of a recovery of international tourism. And in some parts of the world, we can actually see visitation numbers even higher than pre-pandemic levels. And I think that's very important, a very important foundation after almost 3 years of a pandemic, which really has dramatically implicated tourism as one of the hardest hit sectors globally. So this recovery is crucial for the future of the sector. But on the other hand, we also need to recognize and acknowledge that today we still have, or the global tourism system continues to face critical challenges triggered, for instance, by vulnerability to climate change, transformation forces behind the sharing economy, the phenomenon of over-tourism, demographic change, that just to name a few. So, but these environmental and socio-economic crises can also present opportunities to rethink and future-proof the tourism sector. So, what is the post-COVID tourism reality? So despite the hope that the collapse of international tourism would trigger a radical rethink of past pattern of tourism production and consumption towards a more sustainable development path, quite the opposite might happen. So we have to realize that after 6 decades of mass tourism, travel has become a basic need for an increasing number of people around the world, and mobility a proxy for personal freedom. So this is highly unlikely to change in a post-COVID-19 reality. So the question is, will we go back to the pre-COVID business model, which was very clear, framed by the more the better. We also can see changing attitudes of residents towards tourism and tourists. We can see changing behavior and travel choices of new tourists who have become increasingly aware of negative social and environmental impacts of uncontrolled mass tourism. I think we all understand and know and are aware of some of the movements, in particular from Sweden with Greta Thunberg and the campaign of fly shame movement. So these changes, I believe, mirror a growing social concern for environmental problems and the quality of life of communities. So I personally believe that we need to shift from a traditional view of crisis management to more transformational management. And so I think if you look at those two types of crises, the Cobra crisis, which actually is a sudden disaster with a defensive response, and then we have the Python crisis, which gradually develops and triggered a longer-term approach of recovery and dealing with some of these issues. And I think this is probably a suitable frame to move forward, to understand some of the challenges we are confronted with at the moment. So if you look at, for instance, climate change and the climate emergency, and these are just some images from Australia with the bushfires, the floods, coral bleaching, the droughts. So I think it's part of this re-evaluation is to acknowledge that a changing climate and how we respond to this challenge will gradually determine the sector's success and future success. So we often hear about the decarbonization action agenda, and I think it's important to understand that immediate action, urgent action is required. If you look at the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, in their latest report, they actually assume that the 1.5 threshold agreed upon in Paris, we will probably not able to limit climate change to this 1.5 degrees. So I think it requires a paradigm shift over the next decade, which needs to be accompanied by strong government leadership and evidence-based policymaking, industry collaboration, and the implementation of sustainable innovation and low-carbon practices, as well as effective marketing. And just briefly to look at the next steps and also to conclude, referring to David Attenborough's speech, and I think that is very important, that it's not too late to act, and that we need to really work together at a local and also at a global level. And I think that is important that we try to work together over the next 10 years and to really develop strategies which are relevant for the local levels, but also make an impact on a global stage. So with that thought, I would like to conclude my little presentation and hand over back to the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Christof. So you mentioned from the traditional crisis, we have to move to the transformational management. So it was an interesting presentation. So second, we are planning to, so Mr. Dunstan Pereira, CEO, COO to the private office of Sheikh Ahmed bin Faisal Al Khazim. I'm sorry if I made a mistake when I'm pronouncing it. So you may correct it if I'm wrong, Mr. Dunstan. It's over to you.
Yeah, greetings to everybody, and it's been a pleasure to be part of this esteemed team. And I'll just give a brief about the tourism activities, and let me start sharing my screen, please. Is my screen visible?
Yes,
yes, it's visible.
Okay. So, as you all know, the theme for this year's Tourism World Tourism Day is Rethinking Tourism. It's nothing but we all need to relook at the way we see tourism, because we have all gone through a heavy pandemic, which taught us many new lessons. So, World Tourism Day, which is marked every year on the 27th of September, this year it is being held under the theme Rethinking Tourism. Now, just to give what is tourism? The exploration of other countries and places on this planet is called tourism. It's obviously a big business because it's almost worth more than, I think it's about 13 billion years globally. Tourism is one of the world's most important economical sectors. It employs 1 in every 10 people on earth. It represents over 20% of the GDP for most of the countries. Tourism after the pandemic. International tourists arrival worldwide. Sorry. International tourist arrivals worldwide at the start of 2020 has almost doubled compared to the levels recorded in 2021, which means it's a positive sign after the pandemic. This is basically because the lifting of remaining travel restrictions alongside rising consumer confidence are some of the key drivers for the sector's recovery, bringing hope and opportunity to many millions of people around the world who are surviving because of tourism. Tourism is now the agenda of governments and of international organizations across the world. The World Tourism Day will put people at the center of key discussions. Where is tourism going? Where do we want to go? And how do we want to get there? This year's theme, Rethinking Tourism, will reflect these aspirations. Now, if you talk about Sri Lanka as a tourist destination, Sri Lanka is one of the world's best known tourism destinations and was a global spot for tourism fairly recently. This gave a major boost for inbound tourism in large until 2018, which was the last normal year for tourism in Sri Lanka. Sri Lankans are known the world over for their warmth, love, and hospitality. And tourists cite this friendly nature as one of the main reasons for visiting Sri Lanka. Tropical climate, beautiful beaches, and incredible food are all that added to the Sri Lanka's tourist destination. Sri Lanka is a great place to visit for water sports and wildlife enthusiasts and a heaven for history buffs. 26 national parks and 2 marine parks. Yala National Park has the highest density of leopards in the world. Abundance of flora and fauna means it has a beautiful natural trail with stunning vistas and waterfalls. So Sri Lanka is blessed with so much of wealth that it can become one of the best tourism destinations, provided we put a lot of efforts into making it one. Just a minute. Now coming to Dubai. Why is Dubai the top destinations? Dubai is today a must-visit destination for everybody's wish list. Hotels and hospitality starts from the time you land in Dubai airport. Cosmopolitan lifestyle mixed with local culture. World-class shopping, all brands under one place. Where else in the world can you be skiing on real snow 1 minute and then ride on the sand dunes the next 1 minute? Visitors can marvel at the modern and beautiful Arabic architecture, discover the history and culture of Emirates, swim with dolphins, ride a camel in the desert, enjoy a day at the water park, embark on a hot air balloon adventure, and many more. Tourists are spoiled for choice when they visit Dubai, and they might have little thing that they want to do, but it could take several trips for them to complete, because in one trip, they can never complete everything that is available in Dubai. No language barriers and cultural barriers, as more than 190 nationalities are staying in UAE. Now, if you have to rethink or redefine tourism, pandemic has taught us many normals, like the Zoom meeting we are having today, which we never even thought about earlier, where we can connecting so many people under one app. Tourism is being focused by all countries, and the only way to attract tourists is by only offering them a unique experience, which they will not forget. Some of the new trends that is happening in the tourism area is leisure travels. Nothing but business travel extended into leisure activities. So what Dubai is doing now is most of the events, summits, conferences are all being held in Dubai, which brings people from across the world so that they can have business summits, attend the summits, as well as have leisure activities outside the summit. Medical tourism. It's medical treatment along with tourism activities. It's a new way of kind of tourism that is getting promoted now in a very, very large manner in Dubai. Tech-empowered travel, like mobile automation, personalization, self-check-ins, contactless payments. These are all things that today we are focusing in UAE, which gives a lot of comfort to the people who are visiting this country. Virtual reality enabled experiences. Now, you must have heard about the metaverse and where you can get into virtual reality and see the places sitting in your own place. So this is another mode of tourism that is likely to be promoted in a large manner. Active ecotourism, hiking, biking, kayaking, mountains, rural escapes, and waterfront getaways are expected to be popular vacation experiences in the coming years. Transformative travel is a new tourism trend, which is not just about traveling for leisure, but also aiming to make a difference in both the life of others and oneself. Experience tourism is about having a once-in-a-lifetime experience or gaining an emotional connection with culture and nature. Like, for example, if there is a Dubai shopping festival that is happening, which shows some kind of a culture and happens once in a year, people try to come and experience that. So that is called experience tourism. Longer trips is an increasing demand as a result of the many work from home opportunities and gives employees more flexibility to get work done when they are most productive. So here what happened is people tend to go on a longer travel. Earlier, the culture was that whenever you're getting a weekend or whenever you're getting an annual vacation, you tend to travel. But today, with the concept of working from home, you can sit anywhere and work. So people are now looking at longer travels. They go for 1 month, 2 month, 3 month travel. And during the period, they also sit and work at home in their house, wherever they are. Staycation and daycation. It represents a holiday spent in one's home country, or rather home than abroad. See, not necessarily that you should travel abroad for a vacation or for tourism. In Dubai, now we are offering staycation and daycation, where people can come and stay in resorts away from their house and enjoy the place. Solo travel. More and more people are choosing to strike out on their own travel. This is another tourism activity which is likely to get actively promoted in the coming years. Local experience, visiting a country or a place where a local festival or cultural activity is there. Customer experience, fine-tuning experience can make the difference between creating a loyal repeat customer who can boost the business. See, tourism for any country, it predominantly it depends on repeat customers. As far as Dubai is concerned, that has been the success. One person who visits Dubai will always love to come back again and again. So creating repeat customer by giving them the experience of their lifetime is very important. Virtual reality is something which we are looking at, as I was mentioning earlier, where we can, today before traveling to Dubai, you can sit in your own house and see the hotel which you're going to stay. You can even go in there, see the rooms, see the comfort level, and then decide which hotel you want to book or which place, destination you want to see. Now, whatever I've spoken earlier, the new methods or the new way of tourism, how we can equip Sri Lanka in a very short time, because all those things will need time, money, efforts to put in. But how we can quickly get Sri Lanka back into the tourism map. One is switch over to electrical vehicles for tourist movements, which can, to some extent, help in terms of movement, even if it is get affected by fuel shortage or any other means. Food security to be focused by encouraging self-farming by hotels and restaurants. BAA, which is the Bandar Naik International Airport, to be adequately equipped for all international flights to come and go. Eliminate middlemen brokers that harass tourists right from the time they land and embrace technology. Repeat tourism is important for Sri Lanka. So this is an important aspect where the experience of a tourist coming to that place, he should have if slowly we move into a technology empowered tourism activities, these middlemen, brokers, everybody will get eliminated and people will not be harassed. The tourists will not be harassed. Equality and indiscrimination among local and international tourists. This is another aspect that has to be taken care. Like, for example, in some places, the admission ticket to get into a destination is 10 times more than the local tourist. So that is something which needs to be considered and made equal. Focus on the facilities for budget tourists, which is going to be the major contributor towards tourism sector. All policies, guides, all police, guides, and other personals who engage with tourists should know international language, preferably English, which gives them an ease of travel. This is a very important factor in for any tourist to visit any country, the way they can communicate. There should be a common language by which they can communicate. Educate campaigns to emphasize Sri Lanka is a safe destination now and reassure the on-fence tourists to visit. Familiarization tools to local journalists and leading publications so that they can inform the world that today Sri Lanka is the most safest place to travel. So I'm not taking much time. I've just covered in very, very brief because of the time shortage. And let us all work towards promoting tourism sector, not only in my country, but also all the countries across the world, including Sri Lanka, which has got a lot of potentials, a lot of value-added concepts. So let's move towards that. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Dunstan. Thank you for sharing your immense experience and the knowledge. So what I grabbed from your presentation was the way you explained the beauty of Sri Lanka was mesmerizing. And then the unique experience that the new trends that we can learn from Dubai, also from the other countries, and starting from the Zoom to medical tourism, automation, virtual reality, transformative travel, and also what are the things that we can grab from the globe to Sri Lanka, such as the food security, budget tourism, and adequate campaigns. So thank you very much for sharing your experience and the knowledge. So then we'll be moving to our next speaker. So she is Dr. Maryam Shakila, the CEO of SIMDI Group of Companies in Maldives and the former Cabinet Minister of Government of Maldives. Dr. Shakila, it's over to you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm still struggling to see if I can share the screen. It is still asking for the system preferences, and I have done everything that they have asked for, but it is not giving me the accessibility for that.
If you need some more time, I can give the opportunity to the next speaker.
Yeah, probably. I'm just, yeah.
All right. Then I would like to invite the Associate Professor, Michael Volgger, the School of Management of Marketing and the Co-Director, Tourism Research Cluster in Curtin University. So it's over to you, Professor.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Yes, so good evening to everyone. I wanted to start with a sincere thank you to the University of Colombo, to the tourism study program there, led by Professor Suranga Silva. So thank you very much for the invitation, and congratulations on the organization of such a beautiful and important event. And it is a great honor and also a pleasure to be part of this very distinguished panel here. I've listened very carefully to what my fellow speakers said, and I will try to add a few additional thoughts of my own. These thoughts will not necessarily be unique to Sri Lanka, but I think they apply more generally. So first, what is meant with rethinking tourism? Personally, I believe the well-established concept of sustainable tourism, which has been with us for 30 plus years, provides us with a very, very useful basis for making sure that we achieve a balanced development of tourism. A balanced development of tourism means we develop tourism in a way so that we do not only meet the needs of the present traveler and the present host communities, but also make sure that future generations can also be travelers and can also achieve their needs. But there also future host communities can participate in tourism as well. So in a sense, we do not need to continue to come up with new labels and new names when we think or rethink tourism. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that we truly apply some of the learnings that are well established. Can you still see my screen?
No. No,
Okay.
we don't see your screen anymore.
That's interesting. Is it back?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I wanted to stress that I think the sustainable tourism concept is still very useful today. And starting from that idea, I would like to suggest maybe 5 recommendations, which I think are important in achieving a sustainable and resilient tourism development. So the first recommendation I would like to make is to support evidence-based decision-making. So I think the basis for a trustworthy, for a credible approach in sustainable tourism is really knowledge, is information, is ongoing monitoring, or what we call evidence. As those who studied strategy amongst us would know, the strategist scholar Peter Drucker famously said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And this is also very much true for sustainable tourism. How should a hotel strategically reduce their carbon footprint and communicate this convincingly to their customers without measuring it, without having the evidence to support their claims? Or how should a destination marketing organization, or a government for that matter, know what sort of tourism locals prefer without asking them? This is why we think that decision-making based on evidence, based on reliable information, is really the starting point for a sustainable transformation of tourism. At our tourism research center here at Curtin University, we have been advocating very strongly for a strong link, for a better link between this knowledge creation and knowledge generation on the one hand, and the decision making on the other hand. And as part of this, we have launched and have been operating a so-called Sustainable Tourism Observatory, which supports a destination here in Western Australia with ongoing information on sustainable tourism development. And this observatory is also part of the UNWTO International Network of Sustainable Tourism Observatories. My second point has to do with the preparedness for crisis. It is a similar point that Professor Christof made earlier. At the time when we are just recovering from one of the biggest crises global tourism has ever seen, we should, of course, not forget the learnings that we gathered from it. If we look at the most recent numbers displayed at the UNWTO Tourism Recovery Tracker, we can see that from a global point of view, right, a full recovery from the pandemic is yet to be achieved. So latest data are available for July 2022, and we can see that international tourist arrivals are still down 30% globally compared to 2019. Most importantly, and as many experts in crisis management have been stressing for years, is that a crisis needs to be considered as a process, not an event. And I think that's also what the snake metaphor that Professor Christof made is supposed to tell us. The history teaches us that crises will continue to reoccur and they will continue to be unpredictable and unexpected. So it is important that we link crisis response with recovery, with prevention, with preparation. It's all part of the same cycle, and there is always an opportunity for learning. In terms of learning, I'd like to summarize very, very briefly some of our own evidence and research that we've done on COVID recovery. And I would like to stress two suggestions for recovering tourism from a health crisis, but I think this applies more generally to crisis. The first suggestion is hard facts matter. So for example, when it comes to health, the health facts, they do matter. So if we can show that the destination has been doing well in managing the public health, and we can support that with evidence, then our data shows that tourists are more likely to return more quickly. And I think we can probably generalize this idea also to other areas such as safety, for example. The second insight that we gathered was that it is so important to make traveling once again easy, to make it once again convenient, and also to reduce some of the financial risk for the traveler that are associated with travel in a pandemic phase, but also in the immediate post-pandemic phase. I've, for example, also recently participated in a discussion organized by Expedia, and they said that from their accommodation data, they can see that currently the most popular rates are those that allow for flexibility, that allow for cancellation, although they might cost a little more, which underscores the importance of this point. My third recommendation is avoiding over-tourism. While obviously at this point in time, we are still recovering from the pandemic, we are still recovering from a lack of tourism, we should not forget that numbers can easily tip over on the other side, causing all sorts of problems in destinations due to too many tourists. This is what has already been happening in some destinations in Southern Europe during the last European summer. The turnaround has been very quick there, and residents once again started complaining about too many tourists or their behavior. So it is really important to not forget that we need to drive tourism development in a manner which keeps this fragile balance between having too many and too few tourists to achieve a level which is perhaps just right. An example here, the northern Italian destination of South Tyrol, a very heavily visited destination, has recently introduced and legislated a limit to the maximum number of beds that can be licensed and can be registered in the region. They had initiated this discussion before the pandemic, but they continued with the initiative even during the years of very low tourism numbers, and they made the policymakers legislated it very recently. They were conscious that if they want to retain quality for tourists and being a mass tourism destination really, but also quality of life for residents in the long run, they need to somehow respect the limits. Then there is the question of how to make decisions in tourism development and how to involve locals in this decision making. So my recommendation 4 would be to ensure a form of collaborative tourism governance, which allows communities to take part in tourism development. And for this, I really have to look to the neighbors of Sri Lanka. The opening up of the Maldives local islands to community-based development is, I think, an interesting example that can be cited in this regard. The Maldives attempted to involve locals and diversify the tourism product at the same time by adding a more community-driven tourism model next to their well-established resort model. So nowadays, the two models exist side by side. There are challenges, no doubt, but I believe it is a really important initiative. And and by educating tourists and by educating locals, challenges can be overcome, even in places where tourism is a relatively new phenomenon. Fifth, and finally, to strengthen the tourism knowledge system, the tourism knowledge generation, I think we need to capitalize on opportunities for exchanging experiences more and for allowing for comparison more. So I believe there is really untapped potential for closer collaboration among tourism destinations, but in particular among tourism research institutes and universities in the Indian Ocean context. The research institutes that do exist, so University of Colombo, Curtin University are just two of them. Common interests and issues exist as well, quite obvious, including aviation, including marine tourism, including the interest of using tourism as a source, as a driver for regional development, the link between biodiversity protection and tourism, the link between food and tourism, and I'm thinking of tea tourism, a great opportunity for Sri Lanka. So I hope we can work together to form a basis for stronger future collaboration. There have been attempts in the past, in particular in the area of tourism marketing in the Indian Ocean context, but less so in the research space. So from my point of view, rethinking tourism might also be a chance to strengthen the collaboration in tourism research and tourism knowledge generation, if you like. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much for the invitation once again and the attention as well.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor Michael Volgger. So the things that I've learned from your presentation was, so if I summarize, so the supporting evidence-based decision-making, preparedness for the crises. So we give the learning experience for the recovery, and we have to learn from the previous, the challenge that we got, and avoiding over-tourism, collaborative governance, and to tap the untapped potential in tourism destinations. So as you said, challenges can be overcome. So thank you very much once again, Professor Michael Volgger. So next, we have Dr. Maryam Shakila. Are you ready, Professor? Is your presentation can be shared?
Well, my presentation I don't think is gonna work, and then there's no time really for me to send it, but I can just speak.
Okay.
A lot of the points have been covered as well, but then as Michael mentioned, Maldives has been Maldives has done one of the most successful one of the most successful tourism destinations, and the strategies, some of the strategies that they have used is basically to maintain the destination presence and increase brand visibility, and also promote Maldives as the most preferred tourist destination in the world. As you know, in comparison to even Dubai, or in comparison to Sri Lanka, and in comparison to a lot of other countries, the resources in Maldives is very, very limited. Sun, sea, and the sand is all that we have. So sustaining and enhancing the destination's idyllic image has been one of the top priorities, and also positioning Maldives as one of the most desired destinations in the world. So to increase, and then also one of the strategies used by the MMPRC, which is Maldives Marketing and Public Relations company, was to reassure travelers that Maldives remains one of the safest destinations to travel and during this during the pandemic. And then I think that has actually worked very well, which we still maintain. and then also reorient the perception of Maldives solely as a honeymoon and a luxury destination, because that was what people thought about. And then so as Michael highlighted slightly, that, you know, so it became the community tourism, guest houses, and all sorts of other strategies they started using. So, and also increase the benefit of tourism to the community through greater emphasis on experiential tourism, and also maintain the tourism sustainability. So then all the different campaigns conducted during the period was to make sure that we present Maldives as a safe haven for holidaymakers. The safety and natural isolation offered to holidaymakers due to the country's unique geography and its one island, one resort concept, and the stringent health and safety measures in place was the key for their success. So now, talking about the topic today, just give me 1 second. Talking about the topic today, so one of the questions that has been asked was, what is my definition of rethinking tourism theme? Well, tourism is one of the world's most important economic sectors, employing 1 in every 10 people around the world, and provides livelihoods to hundreds of millions more as per the global statistics. So at the same time, tourism sector is also a very, very highly fragmented and a diverse sector. And the ongoing crisis has exposed, even ongoing crisis in Sri Lanka, like the even the economic crisis that you are going through, which is also connected to the pandemic that we had, is exposing the interdependent nature and the fragilities of the tourism ecosystem as well. So the sudden and unexpected and unprecedented effects of the COVID-19 had disastrous effects on especially tourism, and the sudden halt in tourism arrivals not only affected the economy, but led to an increase in habitat destruction and wildlife poaching in many parts of the world. But before COVID-19 hit us, there was also a trend where tourism, while looking at it as an economic enhancer, was also being viewed as a prohibitive, extractive force that also has a destructive element on culture, heritage, and the overall society. So revival of the sector in a sustainable manner has become a priority. So to my mind, the definition of rethinking tourism brings forth the need to re-evaluate and promote tourism around the world, and in Sri Lanka and in the Maldives, in the region, in view of the disastrous effects of COVID-19 as a sustainable, responsible product, and make it the driving force of economic growth and sustainable development. So I believe in Sri Lanka has all the elements required to make appropriate strategies to rethink tourism. Sri Lanka does not lack education and expertise, cultural heritage, and the need. What requires is the political will and hand-holding of everyone together, and coordinated policy action to apply a new perspective in relation to the pandemic, just like all the other countries are doing. So the need is neither unique nor an option to mitigate the impacts of COVID, and the economic turmoil and the support, the recovery. After all, tourism is a key driver, a core pillar of employment and economic growth, and touching on almost every part of our societies, and has the power to drive recovery if strategized wisely. So for people, it is a leading employer and provider of opportunities, most notably for women, youth, and rural communities as well. So for our planet, the tourism sector helps safeguard habitat and species. Witness how the sudden halt in tourist arrivals has led to the increase in habitat destruction and wildlife poaching. So we must remember that. And then, well, what are the strategies? When I think of it, you know, a lot of them have been mentioned by the previous speakers. But let me just highlight some of the things. So we need to invest time and energy and take timely actions for the needed transformation. And most importantly, active and sincere engagement of all stakeholders, including the government, the public and private sector, if we have to create a sustainable, more resilient model for tourism for the future, and consequently, a more robust tourism economy. For example, the pandemic has instilled in us and the whole world the need to focus and look at safety and hygiene in a completely different way. And hence, we will need to invest both in the physical as well as the technological infrastructure to engage in more innovation and technology and explore perhaps artificial intelligence, as Mr. Dunstan was talking about, and also bring about mental shift to assure exceptional, safe, hygienic tourism experiences and overcome the challenges. Invest in training to ensure that policies are implemented and monitored accordingly through the entire value chain, and the necessary human resource and infrastructure need to be developed. Perhaps also invest in diversification of the brand and refresh the destination statement and develop the product for long term. And enabling a digital and analytical transformation within the tourism sector that address the gap identified by the economic crisis is also important. And also to cushion ourselves for such shocks, steps must also be taken towards preparedness, as Professor Michael mentioned, and sustainability and inclusivity. Sri Lanka could also explore efforts towards regional cooperation aimed at building a sector revival strategy and stop looking at the neighbors as threats and just not only as competition, but look at them as a complementary partner. South Asia being home to one of the world's, one third of the world's population, it also houses the most diverse population and cultures and have an abundance of rich natural resources with unique and astounding geographical locations and ecology. So our region has that opportunity to collaborate of regional travel, capitalizing on each other's unique destination offerings to overcome the shortcoming of each other. A question that needs to be asked by Sri Lanka is, should Sri Lanka take a closer look at targeting South Asian visitors and be less dependent on European and North American tourists? Should we not explore the whole horizon? So, so basically, to summarize, so let's say the strategies that I recommend are like tech-empowered travel, because we know it is going to be very, very essential now, and personalization and guidance, it has become more crucial than ever. So a strategy towards that. Preferred plans and experiences and sustainability should become be considered as a key element. And for example, some of the research shows that 70% of travelers expect the industry to offer more eco-friendly travel options, and 46% of European travelers consider waste management to be the most important environmental issue, and 40% of European consumers would stop flying in order to help mitigate climate change. So safety and health focused measures must also be communicated very clearly and should be worked along. And I think most of the other things that I wanted to mention have already been mentioned. So just I would like to thank Professor Suranga and Dr. Slochana for this opportunity for me to be here and be with this excellent team of speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maryam Shakila. So it was a very informative speech, even though you are not presenting a presentation. So it was nice. And as you said very correctly, Maldives, they have the sea, sun, and sand. But in Sri Lanka, we have some more, as I believe. I think it's being a Sri Lankan, I'm proud of that. And then, but from Maldives, they're talking about the sunny side of the life and the safe haven for the holiday makers. Those are the nice taglines. Those are the successful stories from Maldives. And as you said, so this is a very people-oriented, and a lot of people are depending on tourism, even though it's fragile, diversified, and there are a lot that we can grab from Maldives to Sri Lanka from the global, the best practices. So what I have noticed was the timely actions, active engagement, That means the private-public and the private-public partnership, physical and technological infrastructure. And finally, as you very correctly said, we have to work on the eco-friendly and the waste management. So this is kind of a little summary of your speech. So moving on to so she was helping me throughout and to us throughout this webinar organization. So I would like to invite Dr. Sulochana Sigera, the founding chairperson of Women in Management International. It's over to you, Doctor.
You all can see the screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much, and listening to everyone. I don't think I have much, but I'll speak on the tourism, rethinking tourism with women involvement, because everyone said Sri Lanka has potential, but are we using this potential is questionable. And I agree with Dr. Shakila, because as a traveler to Maldives, I see how the tagline goes, how their marketing strategies goes. They do not wait for the government to proceed thing. I think Sri Lanka need to rethink about tourism in a way of branding. I did not see any of the new branding coming on with the tourism, because we have been segregated with government tourism, educational tourism, then the private sector tourism. For us, tourism is more about getting the hotels filled and also getting tourists on the beaches. We have to change the concept itself, because the world see more than what we see. We have to look at tourism, how the tourists see us. And we have to also understand, as Dr. Shakila correctly said, local tourists, South Asia tourists, then go for this thing. We only look at only one destination, and that has caused us all these issues. So let me give my way of thinking, because I'm not an expert on tourists or the hospitality industry, but I enjoy wherever I go, and I look at what we can bring and what we can share in Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka is something that we have uniqueness. And the uniqueness is not about a thing or a place or a culture. As I think Professor Michael first, when he put his presentation, he said sustainable environment and all that. So are we talking about sustainability in tourism? Then the natural environment we do have. Are we really protecting the natural environment? Healthy communities, safety. That is something which safety of the tourist, and also ensuring the safety of our culture, safety of the women and children. Then the economical vitality. Are we having that? Because Sri Lanka economy is not being stopped because of COVID and the political crisis. But the main cause we look at is because we don't get tourists. Are we really putting the tourists is the only way of taking and income to Sri Lanka, or we are looking at the local and South Asian tourism? So let me this is my way of rethinking about tourism as a women organization, and also as someone who looked at the world in a different way. Majority of tourism the worldwide is female, 54% compared to 39% in the broad economy. Are we really targeting women tourism in Sri Lanka? 23% of tourism ministers are female compared to 20.1% ministers overall. It's not about Sri Lanka, it's the world this thing. Sri Lanka has only 9% women are in tourism, while women population is 52.4%. When we call Sri Lanka is the number one tourist destination, we have the highest population. Are we really looking at the global facts or global research or the global data? Are we making decisions on that? So something to rethink when we are talking about rethinking tourism. How Sri Lanka to rethink to ensuring women participation. We have the best this is not Ayurvedic, wellness tourism. Are we really promoting wellness tourism? We do not promote wellness tourism. It is not just the therapy, it's a wellness tourism come from the body, the soul, and also the mental health. We have the best from the tradition to the cultures. Are we really? And also we have, the women are the main contributed to tourism where the entrepreneurship is concerned? From the clothing to the food, are we really promoting those entrepreneurships? Are we looking at those? This is the way of rethinking tourism. The homestay, is it just homestay for the youth or the low income, low spending tourists? Or are we really looking at the homestay as a educational homestay and also an experiment homestay tourism? Are we shifting? We have the best gemstones. And do you know that the stones, healing and therapy has a connection? Each stone talk about a healing procedure. Each stone give you a personality. Are we really marketing the gems we are having? Are we really connecting the gems with the tourism? There is a question on that. More than anything, we have the best mental and soul healthy, and the program we have. The programs are not just the possessions about program. We have the cultures. These are actually being done in Sri Lanka. For some of the things for culture issues, or some of the things are related to the weather. Some of the things are for your health. These are we really actually marketing it, right? Then we sell about candy possession, the world oldest possession. But do you know we have possessions in Katharagama, and we have in Nalrud, Jaffna North? Are we really promoting those things? But we only speak about candy, when candy is a separate one. But if you go to Katharagama, you have a different aspect. And when you go to the north, we have another aspect. Are we really targeting the destinations, or are we really putting only one destination and marketing the traditional way? Are we having a tagline to market the whole Sri Lanka? The brand of Sri Lanka, are we only having personal brands or event brands, or we are having a brand of tourism? Women are the highest spent tourists worldwide. Data shows women travel than men. Women look for new innovation. Women are concerned about safety. Women travel with groups. Women reviews are more credible and trusted. So it is high time, not only Sri Lanka, the worldwide. I think Danson is there. UAE, highest shopping is done by women. And honeymoon destinations or the sunny destinations are being selected by women. Sri Lanka, we have to ensure that women are the one who's choosing the destination and tourist, and also women are the people who are making on the next holiday decisions. Are we really targeting on that? Are we really targeting on tourists of education? Colombo University, you all have so many programs. Are we targeting holiday tourism packages, holiday tourism education, holiday education system? We are not. Sri Lanka has the highest, best education in the South Asia, but we do not link that to tourism education. We do not link. We have a good health system, but we do not link that also. We have the best schooling camping system. We have the best camps, but we are not linking that into the safe tourism. We still thinking about beaches and we are selling it. That's why we look at other countries, neighboring countries as a competitor, because we do not know the worth within the Sri Lanka. And the world also changing. World are looking for healthy, safety and sustainable tourism. It is not just spending some dollars. It is, they want to know, make it a memorable thing and also educational thing. So make it we as Sri Lankans, we have to rethink about tourism beyond being shifting into hotels and also on beaches. And yes, we have a wildlife, but are we really looking at the wildlife in a different aspects? So this is the way to move forward. This is Sri Lanka, and we'll rethink. Sri Lanka need to rebuild while rethinking about tourism. And the best way is rebranding Sri Lankan tourism with a sustainable tourism brand. Thank you for the opportunity given.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sulochana. It was a very motivating presentation for me from my personal view. So what I learned from your presentation, I was briefing all your presentations. So Sri Lanka, it's not about the beaches, or it's not about Sigiriya, it's not about the Kandi Perahara. We have more beyond that. So women participation that you have highlighted, I got to know a lot of new things from your presentation. So as you very correctly said, we have everything. So we are a gem, but we do not how to recover, how to sell as a brand. So as you very correctly said, I'm highly agree on branding as a destination is vital. And 54% from internationally, the women workforce is there. But in Sri Lanka, it's 9%. So we have to really, really think about that. And it was electrified when you say like 54% the world, and we are just 9%. It's not demotivating, but it shows that the potential that we have in the future when we are branding. And as you said, I'll summarize the wellness tourism, the homestay units, the gem stores, beaches. So it's not only about the Kataragama Kandi Perahara. So we have a lot of events happening in Sri Lanka, and we have to really tap into these unknown destinations, events, and we have a lot of potential. So I wish Sri Lanka will be famous for a healthy, safe, and a sustainable destination in the future. So thank you very much, Dr. Sulochana, for your giving your valuable insight. So I think all our speeches are over. So this is the time that so the impact of COVID-19 must be considered, and we have a lot of things that we have learned from COVID as well. And then it's never let a good crisis go away. So Sri Lanka tourism is ongoing, reshaping period. We have to take this as an opportunity to explore the most effective strategies and the policy measures for achieving the resilient recovery and inclusive growth of industry under the application of sustainable tourism development and management. So thank you very much for all your speeches. So this is time for our the audience. Thank you very much. I saw we have nearly 90 participants. It's very happy to see. So the forum is yours. You may ask your questions now. You can unmute yourself and then please ask the question.
Gayatri, there's a hand raised by Noor. You can ask.
Yeah.
Gayatri, look at those who raise hand. You can ask the question. Nurul Huda is one person, right? Yes, you can ask the question. Nurul.
Yes.
Yes.
She has not unmuted herself. Her mic is off.
Can you please unmute and you may ask your question now. So she has put her question. So the question is how tourism can help women in undeveloped countries like Pakistan. I think the most suitable person to answer that question is Dr. Sulochana.
Let first Dr. Shakila, you can start it, then I'll add.
Yeah. Well, first of all, when we have tourism, if we develop the right formula for tourism, as Dr. Sulochana was, what is that noise? Yeah. Talking about there's a lot of cottage industry that women can get involved in, and there's if the tourism is marketed properly, then there are a lot of opportunities for local goodies. Women can make craft, women can get engaged in various businesses that would complement tourism industry. And Dr. Sulochana is already doing a lot of work in regards to that. You have even in Pakistan, you have got a good garment industry. You've got beautiful fabrics. You've got weaving, and all these areas are areas where if the government in a coordinated way and with the private sector, if they all hold hands together at all levels, governments at all levels and the private sector, and the women's organizations, all the NGOs in a coordinated way, and then because of the independent nature of tourism services, the flexible policy solutions need to be brought, of course, if they have to be integrated together. And that will enable the tourism economy to live alongside all the challenges that you have. So women can be integrated, but then for that, you need flexible policy changes and allow them to come in. They can have, like in the Maldives, they can have homestays, guest houses, share your family with them. But then again, in order to get that done, there are lots of policies that has to come in. There are lots of rules and regulations that has to come to give them a good experience, to have a healthy, safe tourism experience. Yeah. Dr. Sulu?
As Dr. Shakila said, there are cottage entrepreneurship and all that. But Danson correctly said the COVID shows us that you don't need to travel to bring tourism. There is a virtual platform available, and where you can do your exports and everything. It's how you position yourself in that virtual platform matters. And that's where you get your brand and the trust that you are getting from the tourists to get your brand. And yes, you all have clothing, one of the best fashions from Pakistan, the materials and everything. But if you can do it as a Pakistani owned fashion and also global based this thing. So you have to ensure how you want to position. And tourist is not about coming tourists to your country. Tourism is about empowering women in all aspects, not only men, the country economy, that is from the entrepreneurship to the economic development to the travel and everything. So you have to choose where the tourism industry should be connected with it.
Yeah, and Dr. Sulu, remember the UNSCAP program that we had on digital marketing and then e-commerce. So these are areas, as you mentioned, where you don't need to travel, or you don't need to be physically present in a place. And then there are trainings that are conducted. I think UNSCAP is conducting lots and lots of programs targeting women entrepreneurs, home-based workers, to try and promote their products and then give them the digital platform for them to market their products globally.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Can I, Gayatri, can I answer? I think she's from Sri Lanka. For women to be led to participate in tourism should not culture norms change first. Culture is made by women. First, women can change the culture. If you look at Indonesia, how Indonesia do their tourism, Indonesian tourism is done by women. Highest number of women are in tourism, but how they have not changed the culture. They have changed the perceptions and the attitudes. So the cultures are made by women, and women need to change the cultures of when it be safety. That's why I think Professor Christof firmly said safety matters. Women need to be safe, and also men need to be safe. It's about people who comes as visitors to be safe. So when the culture and Sri Lanka has mixed up culture with religion. Culture has nothing to do with religion. Culture is about values and the respect, and we have that hospitality. We always look at the guest as a god. So that is the culture we have to practice. And also women, how women need to change their mindset from home women, like just a homestay women, to a tourism industry women. So that's how I think it has to be done.
Yeah, and also
Ashar, can you silence the mic, please? Ashar, your mic is on.
Yeah, and also we should not allow those cultural nuances that are there that limit and prohibit women from working, limit them from actually moving forward. So there are a lot of patriarchal norms, there are lots of cultural norms, socially prescribed rules and regulations, but they are socially prescribed rules. They are something that you can overcome if you have the confidence to move forward. And then, of course, you need probably a bit of coaching from Dr. Sulochana.
So I think the program is converting to the women in tourism. That
I think so.
That looks interesting.
It's happened everywhere, right?
Maybe Professor Christof, Professor Michael, can you please?
Yeah, you all can give your views also. I think Danson, you all made a safety for tourists, and Australia also very much on the gender equality and women in being on the boards of equal this is. So you all can share your views so that they can get the global exposure.
Yes, I can. Sorry.
Well, you go first, Michael, then.
I go first with a brief thought. We just recently had a symposium together, bringing industry and university people together on the topic of the workforce in tourism and hospitality. And there was a big, powerful panel in the symposium as well, which was full of women and very confident women working in tourism and leaders of the tourism and hospitality industry in Western Australia. And what these women said rightly is that the workforce in tourism and hospitality in many countries, including Australia, is led by women. That's not no coincidence because many of the values that are important in tourism and in hospitality, in events, women excel often in them. And as we know, human resource is one of our biggest challenges that we have. So making sure that the tourism industry, that the hospitality industry remains attractive for women, understands their specific needs, will also be one of the ways forward in solving some of the workforce issues that many countries have. So I think that's just one element that can be added to this very important discussion.
Danson or Professor Christopher, you all can also tell.
Just one additional thought, also a reflection of our event we had a few weeks ago, Michael referred to. I think if you look at our tourism program, it's very female. If you look at the tourism industry, it is very young and very female, up to about 25 years, and then something changes. And so I think what is important that the industry provides a long-term career prospect for women, and so that we don't see a situation, and I'm referring here to Australia, where a lot of competent female in the industry depart and move on to other sectors. And I think that is probably what I would like to see, that there are mechanisms in place which would allow a longer term career in tourism, and not just up to 25 and then things change.
I can also add an additional thought. We have a pretty strong association in Western Australia, which is called Women in Tourism. I'm obviously not part of that, but from my observation, they play an important role in strengthening the position of women in tourism, in advocacy to the industry bodies, and perhaps also being a platform and a forum where women can come together and discuss their points of view and the challenges they face. So I think also there's these networking opportunities which are perhaps women specific, can also be a powerful vehicle.
Dunstan, you want to share your views in UAE before I answer one of the questions?
No, I think see today, today's world, today we are talking about gender equality and where everybody plays an equal role. So I don't think there should be any inhibition saying that whether women can come into tourism or whether they can play a major role. Yes, and Dubai is a classic example, right? From the time you land in the airport, you see women forces standing, and throughout everywhere they play an equal role or maybe a much more role than men in this country in promoting tourism. And being a Muslim country, it's all well within the culture and traditions that they perform their duties. And I don't foresee the same thing can be replicated across all other countries as well. Thank you.
Gayatri, you are there?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Dunstan. I think Dr. Sulu, you have some more to add, or else are we going for the next question?
No, there is a question. Could you kindly elaborate as to how Sri Lankan women can overcome glass ceiling and sticky floors in the tourism industry? I think glass ceiling depends on what you think as a glass ceiling. So it is a personal view of people who sees it. Yes, Sri Lanka has issues because Sri Lankan law has issues. You know that Sri Lanka women cannot work in the bars and all that. We have issues in Sri Lanka on the aspect of the tourism industry and women. The laws has not changed. I hope that laws will change. But if this thing is, we see as tourism as that women get freedom and women can do everything they want, and there's a cultural this thing in my mind. It's more than the lack of education and awareness that if now only you see the girls are coming to jobs in hotel, because I work with few of the 5-star hotel to get women into girls into the hospitality industry. But they prefer to go out of the country and work in a hotel rather than working in a restaurant and hotel. You don't see girls in restaurants instead, but you see women and girls in hotels because they feel it is restaurants are for males. So it's a mindset, but the young generation are changing. It is the perceptions. I think the education system need to be changed, and it's changing a bit way off. And also the teachers also need to be educated, because one of the best thing the teachers in school says, do not choose the career in hotel industry because they think in a wrong way. So I think the universities also has to come out and tell the professors and teachers that tourism, hotel industry, and this thing, there's no gender this thing, and whether you're a boy or a girl, you all be safe. And how it is, that is the mindset of cultures, but the youth are changing. So it is just that you have to get few people who has broke the glasses ceiling in Sri Lanka. I think Shiromal is a owner, but she's not working. But if you see some of the people, and we had the first Sri Lankan tourist board chairperson Kimali, she fought with so many people because people look at her as a woman making decision, and some of them rejected her decision because of her gender itself. So we have to change that, and we have to support women in tourism rather than finding faults women who are already in tourism industry. That's my view.
Thank you, Dr. Sulochana. I think Savitri, you can ask your question.
I have actually two questions. First one is, how has Maldives coordinated consistent policy action amid changes in political arena? That is my first question.
I couldn't hear clearly what you said.
How has Maldives coordinated consistent policy actions amid changes in political arena?
Well, when it comes to tourism and tourism marketing, tourism marketing is done by Maldives Marketing and a public relations company. When COVID hit, Maldives had no choice but do everything that I mentioned over there when I was talking about, like everybody held hands together and it was a coordinated effort. So apart from politics, putting politics aside, their priority was for us to survive, because for us, tourism is the main economic mainstay, and it is our bread, and that is the only thing that is there for us. If tourism goes, then we are history. So everything, everybody from all the private sector, the NGOs, the public, the government, everybody held hand together and then started working together. And then the first thing that they did was, I think one of you mentioned one of the strategies, and then this was coordinated by the MMRC again, and then they basically said, this is all we have to do. And that means like every policy that was made by our health authority was based on safety, and everyone was mandated to follow that health and safety. And then also we decided, the whole country as a whole decided that the only way for us to survive basically is the only way for us to survive is by we stopped looking at the economy. The economic revival was not a subject that we started talking about, because we know that before we start talking about economic revival, we have to start talking about tourism revival. And then so every effort was made for that. And then so that was why one of the first thing was done, the sun will shine again, and followed almost immediately by the rediscover Maldives, the sunny side of life, and then one island, one resort, and then a dozen must-do experiences in the Maldives, and then also they went, everybody worked together to get the World Travel and Tourism Council's the safe travel stamp. So unless there is a coordinated and supportive act by everyone together, things will not happen. So the success of Maldives was basically that. Yes, we do have political parties, we do have political turmoil, but when it came to that one, nobody thought about it. And then also, ego aside, people worked. For us, I'll tell you, even companies, private companies, the managers became delivery boys. The top CEOs became people who ran around, sitting at the desk, making sure that everybody did their job accordingly. They were the ones who were on trucks and then going to places, delivering stuff. So ego aside, people started working way beyond the call of duty. And that was the success of the Maldives.
Thank you very much, Madam. And we'll try to adopt what you have taught us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
There is another question
yes,
as well,
you can.
time permits. Yes. Could you please give an example for regional cooperation through complementary partnership in tourism, as you have said earlier? An example currently working successfully.
Well, none of the countries are doing, none of the regional countries are doing what they should be doing. Like, for example, they can promote, one simple example is Sri Lanka has got hills and mountains and tea estates and beautiful things that Maldives does not have, okay? Nepal has got the Himalayas. If we actually combine the tourism experience together with all of them, like a few days in Maldives, a few days in Sri Lanka, a few days in Nepal. And then when you can the mountains to the sea, you know, I mean, there are so many things that you could do. So this is one a strategy that actually is being studied right now and is trying to implement, from the mountains to the sea, to the beach.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah. I hope I answered your question.
Yes.
Thank you, Savitri.
Yes, madam. Thank you, madam.
Yeah. So we have got a lot of interesting questions and very successful answers. So I think the time that we plan in Sri Lankan time is 8 to finish. Now we are late 8 minutes. I feel, but I definitely want to take this 1 or 2 minutes to thank our speakers. So I know all of y'all are so busy with your work schedules and your day-to-day work and your valuable work. So I would like to thank, starting from Professor Christopher. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time. So with our short notice and with all this, the information that you shared with us was really mean for us. And next we have Dr. Shakila. Thank you so much. Even though we faced a small challenge, but you overcome it with by an example. So thank you so much for your valuable time. We learned a lot from your immense knowledge and experience. And Professor Michael, thank you so much. So the knowledge that you have shared, the wonderful experience, there are a lot that we can learn from you, and that you had the strategies that you have shared. And then Mr. Dunstan, Dubai and Sri Lanka. So it's a thank you so much. So once again, and final but not the least, Dr. Sulochana Sigera, thank you so much. Finally, your topic was like so interesting, and we got a lot of questions. And thank you so much for sharing your valuable thoughts, knowledge and experience with us. Finally, thank you, Professor Suranga. So without you, I don't think I'm so happy. I feel this is a very another successful event that we did from our tourism study program. So we are looking forward for new events with a lot of excitement, and we'll definitely in touch with y'all. So thank you very much, all the participants who have joined today. And without you, it's not going to be a real program. So thank you once again for all of you and for your valuable time. So thank you so much and have a good night.
Specifically, I want to thank Dr. Sulochana. She connect Dubai, Maldives and Australia together. So thank you very much, Dr. Sulochana. Because of you, actually, we organized this event. And
thank you, Professor and Dr. Shakila, for connecting Australia.
Yeah, Australia, yes.
Because Australia has a lot of research. And Anson, I know you were sick, but you never say no to me. Thank you very much. And Colombo University, you all have a huge, I think, potential to bring all of these speakers and do a real event, and also give this information globally. And I hope that you all actually get together and give this knowledge to many youth, because university has a lot of youth, and we are just feeding them with traditional information. It's high time, as Dr. Shakila says, connect the world and go to the tourism not as a personal brand, go as a global brand, and ensure the sustainability and humanity.
And I would like to request, we are going to organize November 30th international conference with the Ministry of Environment and the UNDP support. So that is biodiversity and tourism. We would like to invite you all to be a resource person of that very interesting and very valuable conference. So thank you very much. Have a nice day and a nice evening, and looking forward to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.